The words hit like a slap across the face. "We're giving them your room," Zinnia declared, her voice dripping with casual cruelty over the clatter of breakfast dishes. She froze, spoon hovering over her untouched cereal, then forced a smile. Thin, brittle, a mask to hide the storm igniting inside her. "Cool," she managed, voice trembling just enough to betray her. "I'll start packing my things tonight." Zinnia didn't even flinch. She sliced her bagel with maddening precision, as if she hadn't just hurled her daughter off a cliff without a shred of warning, her tone flat and airy, like she was remarking on a passing cloud. At 23, she was still trapped in that house, slaving full-time at a warehouse, every paycheck a desperate juggling act, some to savings, some to their bills, some to groceries, and the water heater she'd shelled out for last fall. A sacrifice no one bothered to recall was hers. She wasn't a freeloader. She was a ghost, drifting on borrowed space, waiting for the day she could break free, until this moment shattered that fragile patience. If you love stories of resilience, reclaiming justice with style, and rediscovering your worth, hit that subscribe button for Graceful Revenge now. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's dive into the power of elegant revenge and life's deepest lessons together. "Cool," she said again, smiling just enough to show Zinnia she wasn't rattled. She'd start packing that night, and that was the exact moment she decided she was done. It wasn't just about the room. It never really is it? The room was the last stone in the dam, the thing that finally cracked the illusion she'd been holding together since high school. She was never really home in that house, more like a convenient appliance that worked quietly in the background until it stopped being useful or took up too much space. She went to work like normal that morning, but something inside her had shifted. She wasn't going back, not for good. She didn't tell anyone. She just spent her lunch break scrolling listings, found a modest one-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from work, and paid the deposit right then and there. 6 months' rent up front. She'd been saving for something else, maybe a car, maybe a future that didn't feel like exile. But this was better. That evening, she still went home, still smiled when Zinnia asked if she could take the trash out, still fixed the Wi-Fi when it crashed during dinner because her sister Saffron needed it for her online tutoring session. But in her mind, she'd already left. That night, she started planning the slow unraveling of everything she did for them. She began with the lawn. For the past year and a half, every Saturday morning, she'd mowed it, trimmed the edges, cleaned the clippings, even reseeded the patchy spots in spring. She never said anything about it. She just did it. Quiet, invisible labor. Her dad Thane used to handle it years ago, but once she was old enough to push the mower, it silently became hers. No one thanked her. No one noticed. That weekend, she let it grow. The grass was already high from the rain the week before, but she didn't touch it. She walked right past the shed where the mower sat and drove off to get coffee like it was any other day. When she came back, Thane was standing in the front yard, arms crossed, staring at the jungle of green like it had personally insulted him. "You forget to mow?" he asked, already annoyed. She shrugged. "Nah, just didn't feel like it." He blinked, like he didn't understand the sentence. "Well, you going to get to it later?" "Don't think so," she said, breezing past him. "Busy?" It was the smallest of rebellions, but the ripple hit fast. By Sunday night, the Wi-Fi went down again. Saffron was screeching from her room because her Zoom tutoring crashed mid-call. Usually, she'd reset the router, swap out the janky coaxial cable behind the TV, and reboot the network. She'd memorized the process from the dozen times it failed in the past year. Instead, she stayed in the kitchen, spooning chili into a Tupperware, pretending she didn't hear her sister yelling. "Zinnia!" Saffron called, frantic. "The Wi-Fi's out again. I don't know how to fix that stuff." Zinnia snapped back. "Where's she?" She let them flail for half an hour before casually walking out the door with her meal prep. No one said a word. That week, she stopped picking up Saffron from school. She didn't warn anyone. She'd done it nearly every Tuesday and Thursday for months. Zinnia's schedule didn't line up, and Thane refused to leave work early. She'd adjusted her own hours to make it work, quietly, like everything else. Thursday came and went. Saffron sat in the school office for 2 hours before someone could pick her up. She came home to tension so thick you could choke on it. "You forgot Saffron today," Zinnia said flatly. "No," she said, setting down her keys. "I didn't forget." Zinnia stared at her. She just walked past her mother and into her room. She figured that was the moment it really started to sink in for them, just how much she did. But it was only the beginning. By the third day, the kitchen sink was leaking again, a slow, rhythmic drip that returned like a ghost after she'd fixed it last year with a replacement gasket she bought herself. She'd even driven across town to a specialty hardware store to get the right size, but she didn't mention that at the time. She just fixed it and moved on. Now it was back, and so was the familiar puddle under the cabinet. Thane crouched there with a roll of paper towels, muttering to himself, using a flashlight like it was a crime scene. She walked by, sipping her coffee. "You know how to fix this, don't you?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, pausing in the doorway. "I do." He looked up, waiting. She kept walking. That night after dinner, she didn't clean up. No rinsing dishes, no wiping counters. She just stood, stretched, and went to her room while the rest of them clinked forks and pretended they weren't noticing. The tension was a living thing by now, pulsing through the walls. On Friday, she got a text from Zinnia while she was at work. "Can you cover the power bill this month? We forgot it's due today, and Thane's check hasn't come in yet." She stared at it for a moment. For the past year, she'd covered bills like that more often than not. Quietly, automatically, saving them from late fees more times than she could count. She'd even set reminders in her phone so they wouldn't be cut off. Not this time. She texted back, "Sorry, I've got rent now, remember?" Zinnia didn't reply. The next day, the porch light was off when she came home. The house was darker than usual, quiet. Saffron was at the table, frustrated, flipping through her math homework, scribbling with the wrong end of a pencil. "You didn't go get the printer paper?" she asked without looking up. She'd always bought it, always remembered. "Nope," she said, dropping her backpack by the door. "Thought someone else might this time." Saffron threw the pencil down and stomped off. Zinnia just watched from the hallway, eyes narrowed, like she was trying to figure her daughter out, like she was a puzzle with all the pieces swapped out. She smiled at her mother, not smug, just calm. Things were falling apart, not because she was doing anything cruel or dramatic, but because all she'd done was step back. That was the scary part for them. They were finally seeing the threads she'd been holding together. Saturday morning came with no coffee. She heard the clatter of cabinet doors, the faint swear from Zinnia when she realized they were out of grounds. She'd been the one to keep that stock too. Bulk bags from the store near her job, always grabbed on her way home, never mentioned, just replaced. Now they were staring at an empty canister and a silent Keurig like it was some kind of betrayal. She sat in the living room, eating cereal, fully dressed, keys in hand. She didn't say a word. Zinnia looked at her over the rim of her mug, which she'd filled with hot water and nothing else. "You going out?" she asked, tone neutral but probing. Yeah, she said, finishing the last bite. Meeting the landlord, going to grab a few things. Zinnia stiffened slightly. Landlord? She just nodded and stood up, walking out the door before her mother could ask more. She was back 2 hours later, a few boxes heavier, a little more resolved. That afternoon, she started clearing out her room. Not all at once, not loud or theatrical, just slow, methodical, box by box. She carried each one out to her car, tucked it in the back seat or trunk, and went back for more. She could feel their eyes on her the whole time. Nobody asked where she was going. Nobody offered to help. By the time dinner rolled around, she was halfway done. Thane tried to act normal, flipping through channels like nothing was happening. Saffron stayed glued to her phone. Zinnia tried to draw a line in the sand. So, we talked. And we think maybe it would be better if we waited a bit on giving your room to Saffron, she said. She paused mid-bite, fork hovering over her plate. Why? Zinnia glanced at Thane, who pretended not to notice. Well, with everything going on, maybe it's not the right time. She chewed, swallowed. No, it's the perfect time. They all went still. I signed a lease already, she said. I'm moving out by Tuesday. Saffron blinked. Wait, you're serious? She looked at her sister, deadpan. Saffron, you packed my things into storage bins when I wasn't home. I found them shoved under the stairs. So yeah, I'm serious. Saffron went quiet. Zinnia's voice was soft now. You should have said something. I did, she said. You just didn't hear it because I smiled when I said it. Then she kept eating, calmly, while the three of them sat in silence, like the roles had reversed overnight, and they weren't sure how or when they'd finally realized she wasn't bluffing, and she wasn't coming back. By Monday night, she was a ghost in her own house. Boxes were stacked by the front door, labeled neatly with black marker. Kitchenware, clothes, tools, miscellaneous tech. Everything she'd ever claimed as hers was already in the trunk of her car or in her new apartment, sitting empty but full of promise, just 20 minutes away. She didn't rush. No late-night escape, no slam of the door. She wanted them to see it, how quiet the house became when she wasn't operating behind the curtain. The garbage hadn't been taken out. No one remembered to bring in the mail. The toilet in the upstairs hallway kept running every few hours with that annoying gurgle, something she'd fixed 3 times already. But not this time. She walked past all of it with a strange peace in her chest. At one point, Thane cornered her in the kitchen. You really think you're doing the right thing here? He asked, arms crossed, pretending to care more than he did. She opened the fridge. Half the stuff inside she'd bought last week. A 6-pack of yogurt no one touched but her. Half a jug of orange juice that always disappeared before she could finish it. She grabbed a water and turned to him. Yeah, she said, for the first time in a long time. He frowned. You think it's easy out there? Rent, bills, all that? She stared at him for a bit too long, then smiled. I've been paying your bills for a year. Think I'll manage mine just fine. He didn't answer, just stared like he was waiting for a punchline that never came. And then he left the kitchen. Upstairs, Saffron's door was open. She caught a glimpse of her old room, now her sister's. Saffron had already started decorating it with string lights and pastel pillows, but the shelves she'd built into the wall were still there. The patch in the drywall she'd fixed when Saffron kicked it in during a tantrum still holding strong. Saffron caught her looking. You could have just said no, she mumbled, not even making eye contact. She nodded. And you could have asked. She kept walking. It wasn't anger anymore. That had burned out days ago. What was left was something sharper, cleaner, clarity. Tuesday morning, she was gone. She loaded the last box into the back seat and took one last look at the house. Not with sentiment, not with sorrow, just observation. The porch light was still broken. The recycling bins were overflowing. The Wi-Fi was down again. It all felt poetic. Before she left, she walked into the kitchen and taped a single sheet of paper to the fridge. Black ink, straight facts, no emotion. It read, "Things I've handled that you probably didn't notice. Mowed the lawn every week. Took out trash and recycling. Covered 5 utility bills when they slipped through. Fixed the Wi-Fi router 10+ times. Grocery runs, approximately $1,200 over 9 months. Picked up Saffron from school 32 times. Replaced porch light bulbs 3 times. Cleaned up after dinner most nights quietly. Paid $200 toward Thane's car repair. Kept this house running while being treated like a guest." At the bottom, one final line. "Good luck handling it all now. I'm off to live like a guest in my own place." Then she locked the door behind her for the last time. She didn't hear from them the first day, but by the second, the call started. First, it was Zinnia. A missed call, then a text. "Hey, the internet's out. Do you remember the login for the router?" Then Thane, trying to mask his irritation with practicality. "Where do you put the mower key?" She didn't answer either of them. By Friday, the texts turned into small storms of guilt and confusion. Saffron messaged her with just one word. "Seriously?" She figured they thought she'd cave, that she'd come back to help out once things got rough. Maybe they thought moving out was symbolic, like she was making a point, not a permanent change. They were wrong. Meanwhile, her apartment was starting to feel like hers. She put up shelves, picked out dishes, played music as loud as she wanted. The silence she used to crave was finally real. Not cold, not forced, just quiet, like the world had finally stopped expecting things from her. The next week, Zinnia called again. This time, she picked up. Zinnia's voice was tight, brittle at the edges. "You didn't have to leave like that." She didn't argue, just waited. "We didn't realize how much you were doing," Zinnia continued. "The trash, the bills. I didn't know it was that much." "Yeah," she said simply. "I know." Silence hung there for a second too long. "Saffron's been struggling with the school pickups. We both work, and she's not used to the bus. She didn't say anything. We didn't think it would fall apart so quickly." "That's because you never saw what was holding it up," she said. Another long pause, then, "Well," Zinnia said, trying to compose herself, "I hope you're happy out there." She smiled, even though her mother couldn't see it. "I am." The days that followed felt strange, like she was watching her old life through a window she couldn't open. Saffron stopped texting after she ignored her last message. Thane didn't bother calling again, probably too proud. And Zinnia sent a few awkward messages here and there, always wrapped in something passive. "Hope you're doing okay. Things are a bit chaotic here. Not saying we miss you, but it's different." She never responded, but she kept hearing things through mutual friends, through neighbors. The lawn had grown wild. Saffron missed a few more pickups and was forced to walk home once in the rain. The water got shut off for half a day before they remembered to pay. The front porch light still flickered like it was blinking SOS. They were drowning in the little things, the stuff they thought just happened, the things she used to do on autopilot. And the funny part, she wasn't gloating. She wasn't even angry anymore, just done. She settled into her new rhythm. She started cooking for herself. Small meals, nothing fancy, but they tasted better than anything she'd ever eaten in that house. Not because the food was better, but because it was hers. She started sleeping better too. No creaking floorboards outside her room at 2 a.m. No sudden knocks on her door asking if she could run to the store. No constant hum of obligation in the back of her head. Just silence. Honest silence. One night, a week and a half after she left, she got home late from work and found a small envelope tucked under her apartment door. No return address, just her name on the front in Zinnia's handwriting. Inside was a folded piece of lined notebook paper. The top read, "We didn't realize." Underneath was a list, not as neat as hers, no bullet points, just scattered thoughts. Trash, Saffron's rides, the Wi-Fi, the groceries, the way the sink won't stop dripping, the thing with the porch light, the quiet. At the bottom, one sentence. "We didn't treat you like a daughter. I'm sorry." That was it. No plea to come back. No promise to do better. Just an acknowledgement. And for the first time since she left, she felt something shift. Not toward them, but inside her. It wasn't closure, but maybe it was enough. She didn't respond to the letter. Not because she didn't feel anything. Believe her, she did. She stared at it on her kitchen counter for hours. Read it again the next morning. Folded it, unfolded it, thought about what it meant. But because a letter can't undo years of being invisible, a list scribbled in ink doesn't erase all the times she was only noticed when something broke or needed paying for. They'd started to see the gap she left behind. That much was clear. But now it wasn't her job to fill it. By the second week, she got word that Saffron had finally taken the bus on her own, though she missed it twice and had to wait in the rain again. Zinnia started paying for a lawn service. Thane apparently tried to reset the Wi-Fi and unplugged the entire modem for a full day, knocking out the house alarm and their smart TV in the process. They were learning, slowly, awkwardly, the same way you learn to walk again after forgetting how to use your legs. And she was thriving in the absence of their needs. She started doing things she hadn't allowed herself before. She bought a bookshelf, not because she needed one, but because she wanted to. She started eating out every Friday like it was a ritual. She even signed up for a weekend woodworking class, something she'd put off for years because someone always needed a favor, a ride, a payment. The weight was gone. She hadn't even realized how heavy it had been until it wasn't hers anymore. One evening, while cleaning out her email, she saw a calendar reminder she'd set months ago. Thane's car registration. Check if he's short again. She stared at it for a long moment, then clicked delete. That night, she sat on her little balcony, legs up on a plastic chair, and just breathed. For the first time, she wasn't waiting for a shoe to drop, wasn't listening for someone to call her name, wasn't bracing for another ask disguised as a favor. The quiet wasn't haunting anymore. It was home. She hasn't been back since, not even to visit, not even for birthdays. They've stopped calling. Maybe they're ashamed, maybe they're just tired, or maybe they finally understand that she wasn't the guest in that house. She was the foundation. And when a foundation walks away, everything shifts. The list she left taped to the fridge is probably still there. Or maybe they took it down, the way you remove something that makes you feel too guilty to look at. Either way, it served its purpose. She's built a life that's hers now, small, simple, but solid. She wakes up every day knowing no one's leaning on her to keep their world from falling apart, and that's freedom she didn't know she could have. Sometimes she thinks about that house, the chaos she left behind, and wonders how long it took them to realize the quiet wasn't just the absence of sound. It was the absence of her holding it all together.